circadian medicine is really top tier science right now. We're synced up with the 24-hour solar day. All of our hormone production, our neurotransmitters, we're synced up with what the universe is doing. And the funny thing is humans can kind of hide out from that interface, but our genes are really expecting us to be in constant communication with what's happening outside. And humans are really interesting. We can create our own habitats. We're kind of like big hairless beavers, or many of us are hairless. But even when we're creating, it's still nature because we're a part of nature. But we can essentially hide out and create a 24-hour day artificially. And so our circadian timing system is getting really screwed up. So absolutely, I agree with him. And here's the rub. Right now in the United States, estimated about 115 million Americans are regularly sleep deprived to boot.
Out of 330.
Yeah, so it's a sizable amount. And we're talking about on a regular basis, like essentially daily. And my big thing is always looking for what is the connective tissue? Why should people really care about this? And I always like to tie it to metabolic health and how we look, right? And a really fascinating study was done. And this was actually published by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. And they looked at people's biometrics and used CT scans to look at their belly fat for 5 years, tracking a group of people. And they found that people who were sleep deprived gained over twice as much belly fat in that 5-year period. And sleep deprived in this particular study was less than 6 hours a night. All right, so kind of there's something about 6 as being that sweet spot. And by the way, there is no cookie cutter amount of sleep. That's one of those things that, we just kind of drink 8 glasses of 8-ounce water a day. Like it's very superficial. Is that the same for Shaq? And for Simone Biles, it's going to be different. And the same thing holds true with sleep. It's not just the number of hours, it's the quality of those hours. It's a lot like the calorie conversation. Yes, calories matter, but the quality of those calories definitely matter. And I've been a big proponent in pushing into popular culture this term epicaloric controller recently, which we can circle back to and talk about. But in particular with sleep, I want to share one other piece too, because especially right now in this energy equation and how important this is, and some of your friends and colleagues as well, like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, really good friend of mine, we're looking at how important testosterone is, not just for maintaining our muscle mass and our energy, but for longevity. And this is critical for men and women. It's finally really shifting gears to be all-encompassing of humanity, how important testosterone is. Now listen to this. This was published in 2011 in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, top-tier medical journal here in the United States. And they tracked young men, average age about 24, all right? And they brought them into the lab and they put them in, it's a ward study. So they sleep deprived them for just 1 week. All right, so they basically got 5 hours of sleep for 1 week. That 1 week period, their testosterone dropped 15%. All right, now that might not sound like a lot, but suddenly that's as if they're 10 to 15 years older as far as their testosterone production is concerned. This is the power of sleep. Testosterone is right next to HGH, our most sleep duration dependent hormone. It's kind of like you're a human Tesla jacking into your charging station at night and filling up the testosterone. There are things we can get little spikes during the day, but basically when we get up, testosterone is just going down. And when we go to sleep, it starts rising again.
So if you are not performing in the bedroom or in the gym in the way that you want, it might be because of how much sleep you're getting on a nighttime.
Absolutely. And it's always the first thing to go, unfortunately. And it's just part of our culture. But fortunately, things are changing. This has become a big part of our popular conversation, especially in health circles. And it tends to trickle its way out to the larger culture scape eventually. But, my first book came out in 2015, I believe. And it was the first sleep wellness related book to become an international bestseller. It had never been done before. It's just like the public wasn't necessarily interested in that topic. I argue against that. It wasn't that we're not interested in it. We didn't know how much it mattered. And it wasn't framed in a way that made sense. And that's kind of my story, going to a conventional university and having biology and having kinesiology and nutritional science, but really not understanding how that is applicable to me as a human being. Yeah. Right? So when we're in biology and we're looking at the human cell, my professor did not know, nor had they made that revelation, nor did any of the students, that as we're looking at the mitochondria, that mitochondria is made from our meals. As we're looking at the cell nucleus, that's made from the nutrients that we eat. As we're looking at the cell membrane, it's made from our menu. All of the things we're looking at is made from food. And that interface between our diet, our sleep, our movement, all of these things are impacting the cells that we're actually building, right down to the level of the genes. And for probably about 10 years now, I've been really keeping my finger on the pulse of something called nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics. So these are fields of science looking at how our nutrition is impacting our genetic expression. And one of my mentors, incredible thinker, pioneer in epigenetics, Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's a cell biologist, and he really impressed the term epigenetics into popular culture. He's the guy. And one of our early conversations, he was sharing with me that, when they did the Human Genome Project, we just knew there was going to be like 1 million different genes for humans, right? Because there's bananas that have more genes than us. There's corn that has more genes than us. They found about 25,000 genes. And the question was, how are we so diverse? How do we look so different? How are personalities so different? Our different levels of health and functionality, all these different things. What's so remarkable about us that he highlighted for me is that with one epigenetic influence, like a bite of food, it can change a gene's, because in school we were taught DNA to RNA to protein. So eventually we're printing out proteins. One bite of food can change what proteins are getting printed out to the variety of about 3,000 different options of what type of proteins are getting printed. So basically copies of you that are getting printed out. It's 3,000 options with one gene. So that's the power of food. It's the power of sleep. These are the top tier things to pay attention to, but we tend to run out. Let me get that new supplement. Let me get that, whatever. We're looking for all these external, inputs. But truly, for my money, I'm putting it on optimizing your sleep first and foremost. And then let's work on the other stuff so you can be a badass while you're awake.
Yeah, the performance enhancer that you're looking for is not in a supplement store, but it's at your bedtime and your wake time.